Motion on the floor is to present this to the public in the form of two questions to be voted on by the public at the April 28th primary. With that, I'll open up for discussion. We'll start on the end, Mr. Alves, and then I'll work my way in.
Thank you. I just want some clarity on a couple topics, so to whoever you see best fit. And that's around the school portion and the talks on a middle school addition. I just want clarity on that. I'm asked a question at the public hearing, the committee as a whole, and there was an opportunity to let us know if the middle school was a part of that, and I wasn't told. Went to the Board of Education workshop, and we heard the middle school was part of that. It was great. That changed my perception on where I stood on the education part of the bond. Now I'm getting words, and unfortunately I apologize, I did not make the citywide PTO meeting yesterday. I had a work engagement. That might not be the case. So I want to know, a simple yes or no, is the middle school expansion project, I think somewhere around 13 classrooms, is that part of the plan?
Okay, so I was at that meeting, so I'd like to address this, and we can defer to Mr. Idarola as well. At the Board of Ed meeting, which you were at, we all have recognized Mr. Idarola was pointing out that the next step after Osborne Street is to work on our middle schools, because that, as that bubble moves through. There are a couple of different plays within the middle schools to be able to do that. One of them, I think he specifically mentioned, was Broadview. All of them involve 13 classrooms, 14 classrooms in that range. So whether it's Broadview or whether it's West Side, the balance of that money will be used to find more classroom space. And being that the classroom's pressure will be at the middle school, it would be the most logical place to spend that money. The reason the bond doesn't say Broadview is because we need the money from the bond to do our due diligence to make sure Broadview would work. Because if it doesn't work, I'm stuck now with $13 million that I can only spend at Broadview that we can't do anything with. So if he has to move from Broadview and maybe move to middle school or West Side, vice versa, he has the flexibility to do that as our outside engineers and our architects design given the site. Mr. Idarola has done a preliminary assessment, feels that Broadview may be a play, West Side may be a play. The other thing is we need to go to the Board of Ed and say we've got two potential thoughts here in terms of middle schools. What do you think? And then from the Board of Ed, we need to go to 2020 and make sure that they're understanding and are comfortable with that decision. That requires money, resources to be able to do that, and that's why there's not a specific school listed. But yes, to answer your question, that money would most logically go to the next play, which is the middle schools.
Most logically is that a yes, it's going to middle school, correct? It's just possibly going to a middle school.
Well, I mean, you could end up being short $3 million. So if you're short $3 million, that's why we want to have another vote in November.
Why not plan correctly? Because my no vote wasn't a no vote to kill the bond. We are clear that there's plenty of time to discuss this bond and still have it pass in time to get money from the state. Right here, we just had an exchange where I believe shows and justifies why I believe my colleagues on the dais as a whole should wait and get all of this. $3 million. Why not add the $3 million now and plan for the middle school?
Because we may not need it. It may be less. It may be more. I can't find that out until we have the money and borrow the money to go out and do our due diligence.
We have time.
You want answers that we can't give you now until we borrow this money and go and do our homework in terms of which school to go at.
Consistency, right, that I found.
But that was your question.
That is,
okay.
And that's one of them. Again, I still think we have time to discuss this and get to a yes collectively as a board here. So I'm glad now we are getting assurances that we're going to look at a middle school with this money. It's assurances. I was very grateful for all the work and the hours everybody put in here. I was upset when everybody was saying that we were playing politics, and we heard that from a lot of places here. I'm not playing politics. Politics was telling the taxpayers, the voters, that if we did this, our solutions were going to raise $1,800. Your tax would go up $1,800. Gene Revaux just brought that up tonight.
That has nothing to do with anything, but go ahead.
Solutions to the problems Danbury is facing that all of us heard at the doors, road schools in downtown. One of the solutions was possibly bonding this money. When we raised that, politics played was a mailer to all the houses saying, your taxes are going up $1,800. Correct?
No.
Okay. Well,
No, look, Mr. Alves, I'm not going to get in a debate with you up here, but let me just explain something. Your discussion right now is exactly the reason why this is political. Okay, so I'm not interjecting politics. You are here, but you brought it up. So I'm going to give the gavel to Mr. Cabo so I can respond to this. The number of $1,800 doesn't come from this package. It comes from 3 times the amount of this package, which was what was proposed in the last campaign by the opposition, by you. So if you want to know where we came up with that money, that's where we came up with it.
Where we said
I don't have to show you anything. You asked me a question. Do you want to? Okay. All right.
I disagree that we can't say what roads we are going to pave because things come up. That means we're bonding for curveballs. Okay. We're going to borrow money for emergencies. Do we take cash advances on our credit cards for emergencies? No. I disagree with that. I love the streetscape part of the bond. I'm with the school part of the bond. I'll take the assurances. I just want more time to discuss this. And a no vote by anybody on this dais does not kill this bond. Let's be clear about that. Nobody is killing the bond. We just want time to debate and talk to the constituents. Look how many more people are here tonight for this bond. For this bond. That's all I ask, for people to think about that. It doesn't have to pass tonight. We can have the discussion. And why do we have to do it on the presidential primary? If this is about the citizens of Danbury, that primary is going to be more Democrats than anybody else. Unaffiliated voters in Danbury don't come out. They're not going to come out just for this bond. Are we really going to put that work in by April to get it out? Let's have it on its own day where everybody can come out and vote on this. Let's make it a referendum just about the bond then. Why are we pushing for April?
We've done that before, and we get less of a turnout. The point is you're going to have all these presidential candidates pushing people to go out to vote. They're going to know this is a day I go vote if I'm a Democrat. It's our job to notify Republicans and unaffiliated. You got to get out there. If you don't do it on the state, now you got to notify Democrats, unaffiliated, and Republicans. And Democrats represent the second largest cohort of voters within the city. You have the best possible chance of passage with the greater amount of voters that you can have out.
Democrats are going to show up in force because of how that election day is set up. I'd like to see this bond go to the voters on the standalone option. That's fine if it doesn't. I would just like more time to discuss this. I'm in the minority here. I'm pretty confident the bond is going to pass. I believe in the projects. I do, Mr. Mayor. We talked about this, right? I know the roads have to get done. I know the schools have to get fixed. I know the downtown has to get fixed. I just think that the way this was brought out, and then I was told that, well, this is how it's always done. I do not accept that for an answer. In the private sector, that is just a fireable offense. Just because something was done once and it can't be talked about doing differently before, like adding more details to something, maybe it's because I'm new here, but these are the questions I'm going to ask for 2 years. So I hope everybody here is prepared for that. With that, I think I've made my point, and we'll vote no tonight, not to kill the bond, because there's still time to pass a bond with details that I don't see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion.